Chapter 31, The Gate to the Secret Realm, The Inheritance of the Green Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's around here. Xuanhuan said so while dragging the compass with her palm. The needle on the compass no longer pointed in any direction, but began to rotate rapidly. This shows that the goal is very close, and they can only rely on themselves. Next, she put away her compass and stood in the sky, her spiritual thought spreading out like a tide, carefully searching every corner. As time went by, her eyebrows furrowed tighter and tighter. Strange. Why can't I find it? Xuanhuan asked. What's wrong? Xuanhuan opened her phoenix eyes and said, I can't feel the existence of that thing. I'll do it. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden light between Xuanhuan's brows flickered, and Qi Tianqian's thoughts began to circulate. Divine thoughts surged and spread like an abyss or a sea, covering the entire world. Xuanhuan's eyes narrowed slightly, and she was shocked. Is he already strong enough? Xuanhuan hung in the void, with divine light surging around his body, and his robes fluttering in the wind, like an immortal. The next moment, the divine will that overwhelmed the world dissipated. A small cauldron appeared in Xuanhuan's palm, and the terrifying devouring power firmly sucked the earth. The earth cracked, and huge chunks of soil and boulders were sucked up into the air. The gravity of this area seems to be reversed. Suddenly, a silver light rushed out from the center of the earth, trying to escape. The next moment, a huge suction force grabbed it and held it in midair. Receive! Xuanhuan shouted low, and the suction power of the small cauldron suddenly increased. He pulled the silver light in front of him and held it in his hand. The silver light was still trembling and struggling. In the end, it was impossible to break free. It finally gave up the unnecessary resistance and gradually returned to calm. The silver light dissipated. It turned out to be a jade the size of an eyeball, green and translucent, as clear as dewdrops. This thing doesn't seem to have anything special, but it contains a very strong power of law, as if the sun, moon, and stars are flowing inside. More importantly, it also produces spiritual intelligence. Ordinary treasures of heaven and earth, or magical weapons, no matter how high the grade is, are just dead objects. The treasures that produce spiritual wisdom are completely different. It must contain the power of heaven, or the law of heaven, which is extremely mysterious. Xuanhuan put away the immortal cauldron of creation, descended from the sky, and handed over the jade. Xuan, take it. Xuan held the jade stone tightly, pursed her red lips, then raised her head and stared at the man in white in front of her, and said softly, Xuanhuan, thank you. Between you and me, why do we need to say thank you? Xuanhuan smiled lightly, and then asked with a smile, this thing is quite interesting. Can you tell me its origin? This object is called star mica. It contains the natural power of heaven that can be infinitely regenerated. There are pictures of stars in the sky. If you can analyze it, you can understand the mysteries of the stars. Xuanhuan told the secrets and effects of the star-patterned mica without reservation, without hiding anything. Xuanhuan nodded and said, okay, the purpose of your trip has been achieved. Leave Mingshan quickly. It's too dangerous here. Xuanhuan frowned. What do you mean, won't you come with me? You go out first, I still have things to do. Xuanhuan said. No, it's too dangerous. I have to follow you. Xuanhuan refused directly. At this moment, the imperial majesty in her body was fully revealed. Xuanhuan said, listen, I have my plan. If you are really worried, just wait for me outside. Oh well. Xuanhuan had no choice but to agree, and after giving him a few more instructions, he turned around and headed in the direction he came from. After her figure disappeared, Xuanhuan's eyes turned red. A thread that only he could see appeared in front of his eyes, extending towards the center area. According to the news from Lin Luoying, Xuan was approaching the central area. It's time to pass. Other side. A place close to the central area of Mingshan Mountain. Xuan went through a lot of hard work and finally came here. Along the way, he encountered many creatures and monks corrupted by Yin Qi, and even fought with them. Although he had a near miss, he was also seriously injured and looked quite embarrassed. On the other hand, Lin Luoying beside him was still as bright and beautiful as before entering Mingshan Mountain. Not only was she not injured, She was not even stained by any dust or blood, because Xuan wanted to be courteous in front of a beautiful woman. Whenever he encountered any ferocious beast, he would immediately rush forward to fight. Lin Luoying saw it, but felt indifferent in her heart. This is my opportunity. Xuan was extremely excited. Following the guidance, he successfully found the entrance to a secret realm hidden in the void. He chanted a mantra and opened the door to the secret realm. Xuan suppressed the excitement in her heart and said, "Luoying, let's go in." Lin Luoying nodded slightly and followed him into the secret realm door. At the last moment when she stepped into the door of the secret realm, an imperceptible stream of light flew out of her fingertips and escaped into the void. There is another space in the secret realm, which is a palace made of huge rocks. As they stepped on the bones on the ground, a strange and eerie aura surrounded them, and they couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Soon, they came to a huge stone door. This stone gate is not an ordinary stone, but is made of heavenly soul stone. There are runes flowing on it, which is magical and mysterious. Xuan's face flushed with excitement. He hurriedly took out a crescent-shaped ancient jade and placed it in the groove of the stone door. Suddenly, divine light intertwined on the stone door, and countless star-like light spots flashed. The light spots connected with each other and finally gathered on the crescent-shaped ancient jade. Rumble, a huge sound rang out. The stone door slowly opened, and a desolate and vast atmosphere permeated. Thunder rumbled in the stone hall, various divine lights shone colorfully, and countless wonders bloomed like flowers, extremely sacred. Xuan took a deep breath and stepped into the stone hall. At the same time, a roar that seemed to come from the underworld sounded. Xuan's heart trembled, his legs softened, and he almost fell to the ground. He saw a cracked stone tablet standing on the stone platform in the center of the stone hall. The Tao essence flowed on the tablet, and golden runes jumped one by one, and the Tao pattern was like clouds. Xuan's eyes suddenly became extremely fanatical, and he couldn't help but murmured, "The inheritance of the Qing Emperor, my inheritance of the Qing Emperor." He took on the overwhelming pressure and stepped towards the stone tablet step by step. At this moment, Lin Luoying said in a cold voice, "Xuan, don't you care about me?" Hearing this, Xuan looked back at her with difficulty, and said apologetically, "Luoying, I'm sorry, you can't understand this inheritance, only I can understand it." Lin Luoying had no expression on her face, just looking at him quietly. Suddenly, a third voice suddenly sounded outside the stone hall, "He didn't lie to you, you really can't understand it, but I can." Warm tips: if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 32, The Devil's Soldier of Destruction, The Inheritance of the Green Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuan shuddered, felt cold all over, and had goosebumps all over his body. He looked past the expressionless Lin Luoying and looked at the man in white who was slowly walking behind her. Xuan's pupils shrank suddenly, his hair stood on end, and he felt like he was falling into an ice cave. His heart chilled. Li Guanhai. How did he appear here? How did he find this place? The next moment, a flash of inspiration came to his mind, and his eyes fixed on the expressionless Lin Luoying's face, and he trembled and said, "Is it you?" Lin Luoying did not admit it, nor did she make excuses. Xuan's heart sank to the bottom of the valley, his expression became extremely sad, and he asked, "Why do you treat me like this?" Ding. Xuan resented Lin Luoying, plundered 600 luck points, and gained 2,400 points. 600 points of luck. Well, it's not a small amount. Li Guanhai patted Lin Luoying's shoulder and said with a smile, "Luoying, you go out, leave this to me." "Well, young master, be careful." Lin Luoying nodded, then turned and walked out of the hall without even looking at Xuan. At this moment, Xuan's face was extremely ugly, his eyes were gnashing, and his fists were clenched. He forced himself to calm down. He must not panic at this time, otherwise it would be really over. "Master Guanhai, there is no hatred between you and me. Since you want this Qingdi inheritance, I will give it to you." Xuan said this with great pain, but in order to save his life, he had to do so. "Give it to me?" "Ha, do I need you to give it to me?" Li Guanhai sneered, and said in a cold tone, "I want the Qingdi inheritance, and I want your life too." After the words fell, he pushed out with a palm. The magic power surged, the Tao pattern condensed, and a golden dragon tore through the space without a shadow and shook out. Xuan didn't expect that he would start fighting as soon as he said so. He hurriedly urged his magic power, and a blue light emerged from his brows, covering his body completely. The golden dragon came with a bang, and the blue light shield collapsed in an instant. Xuan spit out a mouthful of blood, and he was not his opponent at all. He fell to the ground, looking at Li Guanhai with fear in his eyes. Ding! Xuan was afraid, his Tao heart was damaged, and he plundered 1,000 points of luck and got 4,000 points. Ding! Xuan's luck was greatly damaged, triggering the double luck deduction rule. Ding! Killing the Son of Luck can get the heavenly treasure chest. After the system prompt sound ended, Li Guanhai's eyes flashed with coldness, and murderous intent was awe-inspiring. Xuan felt his murderous intention and knew that today was probably a bad day. In this case, he would never be willing to be killed. I'll kill you. His eyes were red, and the green light between his eyebrows was extremely strong, and it actually condensed into a huge ancient god's body behind him. Li Guanhai raised his eyebrows and showed an interested smile on his face. It seems that this is Xuan's golden finger, but which ancient god's body is this? Go to hell! Xuan roared, and urged the body to punch out. The powerful force burst out instantly, as if it could collapse the sky and split the earth. As expected of the Son of Destiny, he can exert the power comparable to the late Xuanhuan with the cultivation level of the initial stage of Xuanhuan. Li Guanhai thought so in his heart, but his hands were not slow. The magic power surged around him, and the dragon roar shook the world. A golden dragon roared out, with the power to push the golden mountain and overturn the jade pillar, and slammed into the fist of the ancient god's body. In an instant, the ancient god's body that Xuan had high hopes for exploded. He himself was also hit back, spitting blood again and flying backwards. Xuan, who fell into the dust, was terrified and didn't believe it was true. The origin of this ancient god's Dharma body was shocking, and its peak power was unimaginable. However, even so, it was smashed to pieces by Li Guanhai's palm. Xuan was extremely desperate. Li Guanhai's strength was far beyond his imagination. At this moment, he finally understood what the 4 words the qualification of being a god meant. Is this your last trump card? If so, you can die. A dull dragon roar sounded, and a golden dragon phantom appeared behind Li Guanhai, breaking the space and leaving. No, I am the destined person favored by God. I will be a supreme strong man who will reach the top in the future. I can't die here. Xuan was extremely desperate and could only watch death approach him step by step, but he was powerless. Before this, he wanted to rely on the ancient god's inheritance to suppress all the geniuses and trample all opponents including Li Guanhai under his feet, but now, he finally realized how ridiculous his ideas were. Today, he will pay the price for his ambition. The golden dragon roared past, and the terrifying magic power exploded. The whole stone hall was shaking violently, as if it was about to collapse, and Xuan had already turned into a ball of blood mist, and his body and soul were destroyed. Before he died, his 2 pupil powers were sucked into Li Guanhai's pupils. Ding! Kill the Son of Luck. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the heavenly treasure box *1. Ding! Kill the Son of Luck. Successfully plunder 2,000 points of luck, and obtain 8,000 points. Ding! Obtain the golden finger, Qingdi's legacy. Ding! Accumulated plunder of 3,600 points of luck, increased lifespan by 144 days. Ding! Completed the task of clearing the Son of Luck and obtained the world seed *1. Ding! System upgrade, current level 2, unlock and bind the second Tianjiao. Listening to the series of system prompts in his mind, Li Guanhai couldn't help but curl his lips. This time I really gained a lot. Not only did I upgrade the system, but I also got a world seed. When I go back, I can fuse the 3 seeds and refine the inner world in my body. Li Guanhai put all these things down for the time being, and his eyes fell on the stone tablet with the flowing Tao in the center of the stone platform. Is this the inheritance that Xuan has been thinking about? Judging from his golden finger, it should be the inheritance of the Green Emperor. Who is the Green Emperor? That was the great saint of the human race who led all living beings to fight against the demons in the final Holy War era. His cultivation was unimaginable, the inheritance of a great saint must be extraordinary. Thinking of this, Li Guanhai had already stood in front of the stone tablet, activating the Green Emperor's legacy, and accepting the inheritance. A wave of majestic power emerged, pouring into his brows like a flood. Li Guanhai's head was swollen and painful, and he gritted his teeth and frowned. After a long time, the charm and runes on the stone tablet disappeared. Li Guanhai curled his lips and smiled. Lightly, the inheritance of the Green Emperor was in hand, but Li Guanhai did not leave immediately, because there was a voice in his heart telling him that what he had been looking for was right here. The stone hall was only this big, and there was nothing else except the inheritance stele on the stone platform. Where could it be? The next moment, Li Guanhai's pupils turned red, and the surrounding scene changed drastically. The original inheritance stone hall had now turned into a demon cave full of demonic energy. The inheritance stele on the stone platform also disappeared. Instead, there was a corpse nailed to the ground with a demon weapon piercing through its eyebrows. Seeing this demon weapon emitting a monstrous and fierce power, Li Guanhai felt a sense of the same origin and blood connection. It seemed as if he and it had known each other for endless years. Is this what has been calling me all along? Chapter 33, Money-Loving Nature, Fighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The power of this magic weapon is too terrifying. Just a wisp of breath it emits seems to be able to clear the universe. This is the most evil weapon, born to kill and destroy, formed in chaos, absorbing the evil spirit, and is the most murderous magic weapon in the universe. Any immortal weapon is vulnerable in front of it. At this time, the magic weapon began to tremble violently, as if cheering. Li Guanhai felt something in his heart, walked towards the surging demonic energy, and reached out to hold it. In a trance, Li Guanhai seemed to see a scene of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, destroying the world and shattering the universe. He exerted force and pulled the magic weapon out of the head of the corpse. It turned out to be a three-pointed two-edged sword. It was heavy in the hand, weighing 10,000 pounds, and this weight will change as Li Guanhai's strength grows. The long handle is black, the sharp blade is silver, and the surging demonic energy flows in the lines, deep and cold. The fierce power of this demon soldier is so great that it must not be revealed in front of people unless it is absolutely necessary. Otherwise it will definitely be the enemy of the whole world at that time. Not only the upper realm, but even the 3,000 realms will probably not have a place for him to stay. Thinking of this, Li Guanhai was about to put it into the Xuanhuan bag, but found that it could not be put in at all. He immediately understood the reason. The power of this demon soldier far exceeds the scope of the law of heaven, and only one world can barely accommodate it. How can the small space in the Xuanhuan bag withstand it? Since the Xuanhuan bag can't hold it, where should it be put? Is it necessary to fuse the world seeds here and refine the inner world? Suddenly, Li Guanhai's mind flashed, and he thought of something. The immortal cauldron of creation, it should be able to hold this demon soldier, right? Thinking of this, Li Guanhai immediately took out the immortal cauldron of creation and successfully put the demon soldier in. Before he had time to be happy, the inheritance stone hall suddenly began to shake violently. Huge rocks fell one after another, like an earthquake. Oh no, this secret realm is going to collapse. Li Guanhai did not hesitate at all, and immediately turned into a divine rainbow and flew out of the stone hall, and picked up Lin Luoying, who was still a little dazed. Then he took out a boundary-breaking talisman and activated it, tearing the space, and rushed in with Lin Luoying. After a cup of tea, the space in a certain area cracked, and two figures flew out and landed safely. That was a close call. Li Guanhai breathed a sigh of relief. If it weren't for the boundary-breaking talisman, he would probably have stayed in the secret realm. This was probably done by the Qing Emperor, who wanted to bury the demon soldiers forever and never let them see the light of day. And the nameless corpse in the inheritance stone hall should be the Qing Emperor, the dignified Qing Emperor, the leader of the human race in the final Holy War era. Finally died in a small secret realm. What happened at that time? According to ancient records, the Qing Emperor was still alive after the demons were defeated, so how did he die? Forget it, forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. Li Guanhai put the doubts in his mind behind him. How did he die? What does it have to do with him? The most urgent thing is to collect more good things before the Yin Qi of Mingshan Jumai reunites. This Mingshan Jumai has existed since the beginning of the world, and it contains countless natural treasures. After a hard trip, how can I return empty-handed? There was a slight flash of red light in his pupils, and he took Lin Luoying to search for fairy grass and divine flowers everywhere. With the eyes of the demon lord who can see through everything, the two of them harvested a lot in just half a day. What kind of 10,000-year stalactite, phoenix fruit, earth vein dragon crystal, earth spirit marrow, soul infant fruit, filled the Xuanhuan bag. Lin Luoying on the side also benefited from it and collected a lot of natural treasures that could be auctioned at sky-high prices in the outside world. But what made her curious was that these natural treasures were hidden very secretly, and even if the divine thoughts were released, it was difficult to detect them. Why could the young master find them accurately? However, Luoying did not think much about it, just thinking that he knew some kind of secret search technique. Li Guanhai did not intend to stop there. He took Lin Luoying and continued to sweep the Mingshan mountain, searching for all kinds of precious and rare flowers and plants. At the same time, deep in the mountains, a great war was breaking out here. The void was trembling, the divine light was rushing into the sky, and runes were everywhere. Every time the vast and majestic magic power collided and exploded, it could break the nearby mountains and shake the earth. Two balls of light, one gold and one white, sometimes collided and sometimes separated, and it was difficult to tell the difference. In the dazzling golden divine light, a tall and handsome man with a solemn expression stared at the girl shrouded in white light not far away. He was the most outstanding contemporary prodigy in Ganyong City, Bailey Lian, who was known as a natural saint. At this moment, he was extremely shocked. The girl in front of him looked only 15 or 16 years old. But her cultivation was ridiculously high and her fighting power was extremely strong. The two fought for more than 100 moves, but there was still no winner or loser, and no one was stronger or weaker. This made Bailey Lian, who was always arrogant and confident that he was invincible among his peers, a little shocked. He was 22 years old and had reached his current realm, but this girl was only 15 or 16 years old, and she could fight him on equal terms, and her cultivation realm was lower than his. What does this mean? Bailey Lian felt extremely unbalanced and unwilling at the same time. The main reason why the two of them fought was because of Bailey Lian. At that time, he saw a girl who looked like a fairy picking a divine flower called Emperor Falling Flower. This flower is extremely rare and very helpful to cultivators. It can be called a treasure among treasures. Bailey Lian was tempted to snatch it, but he didn't expect that the girl was a tough guy. After the treasure was taken away, she attacked with red eyes. In the void opposite Bailey Lian, the girl was surrounded by brilliant divine light, and the rich colorful light burst out with brilliant fairy spirit. However, her eyes were cold and piercing. She had been in the dark mountain for so long, and she hadn't come across a good thing. Finally, she came across a magical herb and was picking it, but it was snatched away from under her nose. This immediately made her, who was a bit obsessed with money, explode her mentality, and she didn't care about the other party's large number of people and directly snatched it. At the same time, she was very upset. When she saw the Emperor's fallen flower, she was excited for a long time, and then she slowly squatted over to pick it, but it was snatched away by someone. She was used to being poor, and when she first saw this priceless treasure, her head was inevitably a little dizzy. If I had known to act faster, the divine flower would not have been snatched away. At this time, Bailey Lian spoke in a cold voice. You are very strong, but it is not so easy to snatch things from me. I advise you to get out of here before you really anger me. These words were said majestically and domineeringly, revealing an unquestionable momentum. Hearing this, the girl snorted coldly and said nothing. Her eyes were cold, and her figure suddenly disappeared. Several white lights flashed in the void, and quickly approached Bailey Lian. A clenched jade fist suddenly appeared and fell suddenly. The earth exploded, the mountains collapsed, and the power of this punch seemed to be able to collapse the heavens. How is it possible? Bailey Lian changed color in horror. He didn't expect that this girl actually had the means to travel through the void, which was simply impossible to defend against. In a hurry, he offered a deep and heavy ancient shield to block the girl's punch, but the next moment, the ancient shield exploded and the runes flew away. The girl's jade fist hit Bailey Lian's chest firmly. Puff! He screamed and flew backwards. The right half of his body exploded in the void, his eyes full of astonishment and disbelief. Chapter 34, Can You Bully My Sister? You are listening at novelfull.audio. His ancient shield couldn't block the girl's punch. This is a defensive secret treasure. How strong is her physical strength? In the seemingly fragile body, there is infinite brute force. Young Master. Young Master, are you okay? The followers watching the battle from a distance were shocked and rushed over to catch Bailey Lian, who fell from the void. Bailey Lian's magic power surged around him, repairing his exploded body, and said in a cold voice, "Catch her at all costs." Yes, young master. A terrifying aura burst out from the followers, turning into divine rainbows that soared into the sky and pressed down on the girl in the void. These followers are all masters with profound cultivation. The weakest one has the realm of the middle stage of Xuanhuan, and there are even a few Xuanhuan. However, due to the suppression of the laws of heaven and earth here, those Xuanhuan can only exert the power of the peak of Xuanhuan, but even so, it is more than enough to join forces to besiege a girl in the middle stage of Xuanhuan. In an instant, dense brilliance intertwined in the void, and thousands of runes crisscrossed. The violent waves of mana spread out, like a star field exploding. Just when Li Guanhai was about to leave Mingshan Jumai, he suddenly looked at a mountain covered by thick fog with a strange look in his eyes. Seeing this, Lin Luoying couldn't help asking, "Young master, what's wrong?" Li Guanhai said, "Luoying, you go out first." "Ah. Young master, aren't you going with me?" Lin Luoying asked hurriedly. A little worried, Li Guanhai shook his head and said, "I still have things to do. You go first. If you encounter any trouble, immediately activate the boundary-breaking talisman to escape, understand?" "Well, I know, young master. You must be careful. I'm waiting for you on the divine ship." After speaking, Lin Luoying looked back every few steps, and reluctantly flew out of Mingshan. After watching her leave, Li Guanhai turned his gaze to the mountain range where the mana fluctuations had just been transmitted. With an interested smile on his face, a new girl of luck appeared, and it seemed that she was fighting with someone. Li Guanhai was shrouded in divine light and turned into a divine rainbow, rushing to the ghostly mountain range. In the mountains, although the white-shirted girl was powerful, she could not withstand the siege of more than a dozen masters. She struggled for a long time, but was finally injured. Her pretty face turned pale, and she spit out a mouthful of blood. Her slender body fell like a leaf in the wind, breaking the ancient trees one by one and falling to the ground. "Let's go together and suppress her," a strong man at the peak of Xuanhuan said coldly. More than a dozen strong men from Ganyong City turned into divine rainbows and chased after them. However, they had just rushed halfway when the void in front of them suddenly spread out surging golden light. With vast divine power and terrifying murderous intent, it turned out that when the girl in white was injured, she set up a killing secret in the void, waiting for them to hit it. Several weaker warriors were unable to dodge, their eyes were flashed by the golden light, and their bodies exploded into a blood mist in the air. How can this be? The remaining warriors were shocked and angry, and used their magical powers to break the killing secret, and continued to chase the girl in white. A melee broke out again. The girl in white was already injured, and now she was besieged by several angry warriors. Naturally, she could not resist and retreated step by step. She could only fight and flee, and said coldly, "Bullying others with power, bullying the few with numbers, do you still have martial ethics? Dare to hurt my Gan Yongqing young master, you can't atone for your sins even if you die. What martial ethics are you talking about?" A Gan Yongqing warrior roared, and then joined forces with his companions to perform a magical power. Seal the sky and lock the earth. At the same time, the fleeing girl in white suddenly found that the space around her was experiencing strange fluctuations. Her body rushed forward as if it hit an air wall, which bounced her back. Not good. Give up. As soon as the girl in white turned around, she saw several large hands with condensed magic power grabbing her. She was shocked but not panicked, and activated the strongest secret method. A blue bell with a surging Dao pattern and a desolate aura emerged, protecting her in it, as if the chaotic storm could not shake it in the slightest. The sky trembled, and the divine sound was vast, filling the world. More than a dozen giant palms of magic power fell on the blue bell, making a clang 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 sound of the ancient times. The earth cracked layer by layer, and the blue bell kept sinking. "I wonder how long you can hold it." More than a dozen strong men used various secret techniques to bombard the blue bell. Finally, under the fierce attack like a storm, the blue bell shattered with a bang. However, the girl's figure had disappeared. The strong men hurriedly spread their divine thoughts, covering the world. They all looked at the void in front of them, the space twisted and fluctuated, revealing the blood-stained figure of the girl in white. At this moment, her face was pale, and her internal organs had suffered a lot of injuries. Blood kept pouring out of her mouth, staining her white shirt red. "How does it taste?" Bailey Lien appeared in the void, with a playful and teasing sneer on his face. The half of his body that had exploded had been repaired as before, and his injuries had also improved a lot. The girl in white had no expression on her face, and after a moment she said lightly, "Do you know who I am?" "Oh. I would like to know what your extraordinary origin is." Bailey Lien sneered. In his opinion, the girl in white had no background at all, otherwise how could she be alone? The reason why she said this was just to delay time and look for an opportunity to escape. "My name is Yang Chana, and my brother is the young master of Yunwei Division, Li Guanhai." The girl in the white shirt had a calm voice and continued, "And that Emperor's Fall flower was the one he asked me to pick for him." At this time, she was still thinking about the Emperor's fallen flower. It is indeed a money-loving attribute. Hearing this, Bailey Lien and the other powerful men looked at each other, as if they had heard the most ridiculous joke, and they all laughed wildly, extremely arrogantly. "You, a young fox, are pretending to be a tiger. Who in the world doesn't know that Li Guanhai is an only son, so where did he get his sister? Besides, even if you are Li Guanhai's sister, so what? Will he come to save you? Will he dare to come to save you?" Bailey Lien looked like he had seen through her, his eyes full of ridicule and ridicule. Yang Chana's face was still as cold as ice. She shook her head and said, "I hope you won't regret it then." She said this, but her teeth itched with hatred in her heart. "Damn it, you can't scare him. It seems that the reputation of my good brother is nothing more than this. Have you finished your last words? I will send you on your way safely." Bailey Lien shouted coldly, and a golden war spear appeared in his hand. As soon as the war spear appeared, the terrifying killing energy instantly filled the entire space. "Suffer death." The war spear was thrown out and penetrated the void. The golden light illuminated the mountains and forests, and the aura was extremely vast. Wherever the war spear passed, all the ancient trees in the sky turned into fly ash, and the terrifying twisting power spread in the void. Seeing the incredibly fast war spear heading towards her, Yang Chana knew that in her current state, there was no way to avoid it, let alone resist it. Just when a trace of physical pain flashed across her pretty face, and she was about to use her trump card to escape, the void in front of her suddenly distorted, and a figure in white came out. Clang! With a wave of his sleeve, he shattered the void and easily knocked away the war spear that penetrated. A light and gentle voice resounded throughout the world. "My sister, can you bully her?" Chapter 35, Brother and Sister Meet, Eyes Full of Jealousy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Guanhai. How is this possible? Young Chana was stunned in her place, her eyes full of disbelief, but the strange blood relationship in her heart told her that the person in front of her was indeed the great enemy she hated and haunted, Li Guanhai. After confirming the identity, Young Chana's eyes flashed with coldness, and murderous intent was looming. Li Guanhai's eyes fell on the girl in white with a strange color, and he smiled softly. "I haven't seen you for 10 years, you have grown up." Young Chana's pair of crystal clear and extremely pure eyes were now covered with frost, almost turning into substance. "Li Guanhai, I finally found you." Her voice was cold, like a sword. "Finally? Have you been looking for me? Silly girl, when you miss me, you can come to Yunwei Division to find me. Why do you stupidly come here?" Li Guanhai said with a look of disgust, like a good brother who is teaching his sister a lesson. People who don't know would think that their relationship is very good. After hearing this, Yang Chana's eyebrows were raised, her cheeks were puffed, and she asked fiercely, "Who are you calling stupid?" Li Guanhai said as a matter of course, "Of course I'm talking about you." "You?" Yang Chana was furious, her pretty face was cold, and her eyes were extremely cold. She wanted to kill Li Guanhai directly, but she was seriously injured now and needed time to recuperate. At this time, it was no different from committing suicide. Li Guanhai ignored her and turned to look at Bailey Lien, whose face became a little ugly, and the group of Gan Yongqing strongmen around him. "Bailey Lien, you bullied my sister so much and beat her seriously. Don't you take my Yunwei Division seriously?" The faint voice came out, containing a terrifying power that made people tremble. Hearing this, Bailey Lian frowned and looked a little unnatural. I didn't expect that this girl was actually Li Guanhai's sister. If I had known this, I would have left some room at that time. In the final analysis, I was at fault in this matter. If I didn't handle it well, it might lead to the antagonism between Ganyong City and Yunwei Division. Although Ganyong City is also a top force in the upper realm, it still lacks a lot of foundation in front of Yunwei Division. If I offend Yunwei Division because of a small matter, it is really not worth it, and it can even be said to be extremely stupid, if the elders of Ganyong City knew about this matter. I am afraid that I will never have a good life in the future. Thinking of this, Bailey Lian decided to give in to Li Guanhai and solve this matter first. Master Guanhai, this is a misunderstanding, I want to. Before he finished speaking, Li Guanhai interrupted him with a faint voice, tell me, how do you want to die? Hearing this, the faces of more than a dozen Ganyong City strongmen changed and turned slightly pale. Bailey Lian was stunned for a moment, and then his face quickly darkened. After all, he was also a generation of Tianjiao, the young master of Ganyong City. When had he been humiliated like this? Especially Li Guanhai's calm attitude, which made him furious. It was as if in his eyes, he was an ant that could be crushed to death at any time. Li Guanhai, don't be too arrogant. It was indeed my fault in Ganyongcheng, but that doesn't mean you can insult us at will. Bailey Lian was also a tough guy. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden spear in his hand burst into brilliant light, ready to fight at any time. He was confident that he could defeat the opponent alone. Even if he couldn't win, there were many strong men from Ganyongcheng behind him, and Li Guanhai couldn't do anything to him. This was a good opportunity to dampen his spirit and make him be more restrained in his behavior in the future. Don't think that he can be arrogant with the support of Yunwei. At this time, Li Guanhai spoke again, his voice indifferent. I say, how do you want to die? Bailey Lian couldn't hold it back anymore and roared, Li Guanhai, you are too arrogant. Today I will let you know that arrogance will cost you a price. Before he finished speaking, he had already held the spear in his hand and rushed over like a sun. The spear thrust out, clanging, and the terrifying edge seemed to be able to destroy a world. His speed was so fast that it was difficult to catch with the naked eye. Yang Chaner, who was sulking, and a group of strong men in Ganyong City only saw a golden light flashing, and nothing else. However, from Li Guanhai's perspective, he could see Bailey Lian's movement trajectory clearly, and even the subtle changes in his facial expressions were in full view. This is the second heaven-defying effect of the Demon Lord's Eye, which can slow down time with oneself as the first-person perspective, so that the speed of change of things seen in the eyes is infinitely close to zero. This effect does not slow down the speed of time passing, but the time he sees will slow down. So no matter how fast Bailey Lian is, in his eyes, there is not much difference from the turtle speed. The next moment, a green light flashed between Li Guanhai's eyebrows, and countless mysterious runes of the avenue floated out, condensing into a huge ancient god body in front of him. The ancient god of magic grabbed the golden spear with his giant palm, and slapped the horrified Bailey Lian with his other giant palm. How could this be possible? Bailey Lian roared in his heart and immediately activated the protective magic weapon. A Bagua mirror floated above his head, emitting a vast power to protect him. The ancient god's giant palm slammed down, and the Bagua mirror trembled violently, and finally broke into pieces with a snap, and the Tao runes quickly disappeared between heaven and earth. Bailey Lian suffered a backlash, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and flew backwards, covered in blood, his body almost exploding. If it weren't for the powerful defensive power of this Bagua mirror, Bailey Lian would have died at this moment. How could it be? How could he be so strong? Bailey Lian's face was pale with fear, and his whole body was cold. He thought that his cultivation and combat power were on par with Li Guanhai, and even if he was not as good as him, the gap should be only a little bit. But now, the opponent only made one move, and he was seriously injured and nearly died. The gap between the two is completely incomparable. And young Chaner behind Li Guanhai was completely stunned by this scene. She had a little plan in her mind, which was to let Li Guanhai and Bailey Lian fight first. Preferably both of them would be injured, and then she would take the opportunity to reap the benefits. But what she never expected was that Li Guanhai's strength was so strong that he severely injured Bailey Lian with just one move. This hit young Chaner hard. She was unwilling and angry. She had been practicing hard for 10 years, just to get revenge one day, but in the end, she found that he had left her far behind. Damn. Why does this bad guy have such a good talent? Young Chana was indignant, but soon calmed down. Humph, this guy is the young master of Yunwei Division, and there are countless natural treasures for him to practice. It's nothing great to reach this level. After I refine and absorb that thing, my strength will definitely surpass him. Chapter 36, Pick Up My Cousin and Chase Her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thinking of this, young Chana couldn't help but curl her lips, and her self-confidence, which had just been hit, swelled up again. The number one prodigy in Ganyong City, is this all he can do? Li Guanhai's voice was indifferent, killing people and hurting their hearts. You. Poof. Bailey Lian was so angry that his blood was flowing backwards, and he was so angry that he spurted out another mouthful of blood. Kill him for me, he growled, and didn't care about martial ethics, and directly ordered all his followers to attack together. Since today is destined to be unresolved, just do it thoroughly. As long as Li Guanhai dies here, all troubles can be solved. Yes. More than a dozen Ganyong City strongmen went out again, each displaying their combined magical powers, and the vast power surged and rushed towards Li Guanhai to kill. The auras of these people were integrated, and they acted as one person, cooperating very tacitly. It seems that they are all strong men carefully cultivated by Ganyong City. Li Guanhai had a blank expression on his face, and pushed his palm into the void. The light and shadow bones in his body were emitting brilliant divine light at this moment, and countless patterns emerged, brilliant and colorful. At the same time, the ancient god's body in front of him also stretched out his giant palm and pushed forward. The movement was heavy and slow, and ripples of space spread out, as if pushing a world. In an instant, the void in front collapsed, and the suction force that even light could not escape instantly swallowed up the combined magical powers of more than a dozen strong men in Ganyong City. Several strong men had no time to avoid it and were directly pulled into the collapsed void. Their bodies were pulled into a thread that was infinitely close to zero by the terrifying gravity. They couldn't die anymore. The remaining few strong men turned pale, and looked at the young man in white not far away with extremely frightened eyes, and the hair on their bodies stood up. It was too terrible. The strength of this young man was ridiculous. If he hadn't reacted quickly and burst out with absolute strength to break free in the first time, he would probably have been pulled into the collapsed void now. Bailey Lian, who was far away, was even more shocked and unbelievable when he saw this scene. Is this the power of the void law? How is this possible? He is only at the Xuanhuan realm and cannot comprehend the law. But the facts were in front of him, and he had no choice but to believe it. At this moment, Bailey Lian's Dao heart was shaken. Facing such a pure genius who went against common sense, his fighting spirit was gradually lost, replaced by a deep sense of powerlessness. Are you done? Then it's my turn. Li Guanhai smiled lightly, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared beside several tense Ganyong City strongmen, shuttled through the void. The pupils of several people shrank suddenly, and they were about to retreat away, but they were shocked to find that the surrounding void had been imprisoned, let alone escape. They couldn't even move. This is the horror of the power of the law. Unless you have also comprehended the power of the law, it is impossible to break it. Go to hell. A faint voice sounded. At the moment before death, they cast their desperate and hopeful eyes on Bailey Lian, hoping that their young master could come to rescue them. But what made them even more desperate and angry was that the young master they and others had desperately protected actually turned around and ran away, and there was no hesitation at all, as if he was using their death to delay time and give him a chance to escape. At this moment, the void twisted, and the bodies of several strong men in Ganyong City exploded one after another, with full of unwillingness and regret, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. Hey! Don't run! Give me Di Luohua. Seeing Bailey Lian running away, young Chana was angry and anxious, and even forgot about the great enemy in front of her, and hurriedly chased after him. Heh, a greedy silly girl. Li Guanhai smiled slightly, turned into a stream of light and shuttled through the void, and caught up with her in an instant. He grabbed her collar from behind and carried her forward. Li Guanhai, you bastard, what are you holding me for? Let me go. Young Chana was noisy and fussy, her hands were waving, her feet were kicking, and she was struggling hard. Li Guanhai ignored her and just carried her forward to chase her. Bai Li Lian had the ability to shrink the earth into an inch, and his speed was extremely fast. Although this girl could also shuttle through the void, she had not yet mastered it, so she could not catch up with him at all. Two divine rainbows rushed out of the mountains and forests in an instant, one in front and one behind, like two meteors. While Bai Li Lian was using all his strength to shrink the earth into an inch, he stuffed various pills into his mouth to quickly recover his injured body and consume huge spiritual power. He felt extremely humiliated, since he was born. When has he been chased and killed so miserably? As the #1 prodigy in Ganyong City, he grew up in care and pampering since he was a child. Later, he showed amazing talent, overwhelmed a group of prodigies, and was invincible among his peers. This also created his so-called brave and warlike character, as well as his self-confident and invincible mentality. The reason why he developed such a character was entirely because he had never encountered setbacks, let alone a real opponent. That's why he had an illusion of being invincible. But now he had just left Ganyong City and had just collided with the first Jinjiao, and he suffered a great defeat, and it was an unsuspenseful and completely crushing defeat. How could he accept this? Abandoning a group of followers and running away alone just now was the most shameless and helpless act he had ever done in his life, because he knew that if he didn't run away, he would definitely die. If he ran away, there might be a glimmer of hope, but even if he didn't die today, his Tao heart would have a demon in his heart, and it would be difficult for him to achieve anything in the future. Now Bai Li Lian's only hope is the strong men from Ganyong City waiting outside the Mingshan. Jumai, as long as he escapes from Mingshan, Li Guanhai will definitely not dare to do anything to him. He is still confident about this. Suddenly, Bai Li Lian saw a divine rainbow galloping behind him, breaking through the clouds and mist, and traveling thousands of miles in an instant. How could he be so fast? Bai Li Lian was shocked. He had already used his full strength to shrink the earth into an inch, and also used the divine running talisman, and his speed was as fast as the peak that could be achieved below the Xuanhuan realm. But even so, Li Guanhai still caught up with him. Is this guy a monster? Is he really going to die here today? Just when Bai Li Lian was desperate, he saw a few women with divine light all around them from afar, and suddenly his face showed ecstasy, and he shouted loudly, "Fairy Wuk, save me, someone wants to kill me." These women are from the Baikan Palace. Fairy Wu Go, in her white shirt, was suspended in the air. Her beautiful eyes behind the veil stared at Bai Li Lian, who was in a panic and looked both frightened and happy. She was a little puzzled. "Mr. Bailey, why are you so flustered? Who wants to kill you?" she asked. Her voice was ethereal, like the sound of nature. "Yes." Just as Bai Li Lian was about to speak, an indifferent voice interrupted him, resounding between heaven and earth. "I want to kill him. Could it be that Fairy Wu Go wants to stop me?" Then, everyone saw a divine rainbow cutting through the sky and arriving in the blink of an eye. The divine light dissipated, revealing Li Guanhai's figure in white clothes. He was also holding a beautiful girl with puffy cheeks who was angry. Chapter 37, Call me good brother and I will give you the Emperor's flower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A thrilling chill enveloped the space, and Li Guanhai's cold eyes were full of indifference and murderous intent. The expressions of several women from Baikan Palace changed, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Bai Li Lian's heart was beating wildly and he quietly took 2 steps back. Fairy Wu Gu never imagined that the person chasing Bai Li Lian would be Li Guanhai, whom she could not see through the most and least wanted to come into contact with, although she didn't know the ins and outs of the matter. She saw the determined murderous intent in Li Guanhai's eyes and knew that she couldn't control this matter, and she didn't have the ability to do so. Young Master Guanhai misunderstood. I was just passing by and had no intention of intervening in this matter. Please do so. Fairy Wu Guo bowed her head and chose to stay out of the matter without hesitation. She didn't want to offend Yunwei for someone who had nothing to do with her. Upon hearing this, Bai Li Lian's expression suddenly changed and he begged, Fairy Wu Guo, please help me. As long as you can keep me alive today, I swear, Qianyong City can give you an unimaginable reward. He is still working hard, because Fairy Wushou is his last straw, and he must hold on tightly. Fairy Wu Guo glanced at him and lowered her eyebrows. Baikan Palace have always lived in seclusion and have not participated in any disputes. Please forgive me for not being able to intervene in the grudge between young Master Bailey and young Master Xuanhai. Forgive me, sir. Bailey Lian's face was livid, his fists clenched, and he stared at the beautiful woman with a gauze face, the hatred in his eyes unforgettable. Fairy Wu Gu is indeed a smart person. Li Guanhai smiled faintly and suddenly took action. A bright brilliance erupted, and all nearby mountain peaks collapsed and turned into powder and ashes, ripples broke out in the void, Bailey Lian flew out upside down, half of his body exploded, and blood spilled into the sky. Fairy Wu Gu narrowed her beautiful eyes and was shocked. Was that the law of the void just now? He was only 20 years old and at the peak of Xian Shui, but he actually understood the power of the law. If this matter spreads, it will probably cause a sensation in the entire upper world. Li Guanhai, you can't kill me. If you kill me, Xianyong City won't give up. At this moment, Bailey Lian was lying in a pit of blood in extremely miserable condition, speaking intermittently, and his breath was dying. Really? Li Guanhai looked slightly amused, then disappeared into the void and appeared next to the blood pit, looking down at the young master of Qianyong City who had changed beyond recognition. Do you think Qianyong City behind you will know that you were killed by me? One sentence immediately made Bailey Lianmian feel ashen, and his heart was extremely despairing. Li Guanhai raised his palm slightly, and the brilliant mana condensed into countless golden divine swords. As his palm fell, the golden divine swords fell like a violent storm. Ah! A blood-curdling scream sounded, and Bailey Lian's body was chopped into pieces by the storm of golden swords, scattering into a mist of blood that filled the sky. At this moment, a ball of white light penetrated the blood mist and stood up from the ground, trying to escape into the void. This is Bailey Lian's soul. As long as the soul is immortal, he can still be cast into a physical body and resurrected again. Oh, I'm thinking too much. Li Guanhai sneered, waved his sleeves, and through the immortal cauldron of creation, the immortal cauldron of creation was suspended in midair. The mouth of the cauldron was facing the escaping white light. It suddenly erupted with a powerful suction force that could distort everything, sucking in the white light. The white light trembled violently and struggled, letting out a sharp scream, trying to escape from the clutches of the devil, but no matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't break away from the pulling force, and was finally taken into the cauldron. Just kidding, the suction power of this creation immortal cauldron can even firmly absorb countless stars, let alone a mere soul. Li Guanhai put away the immortal cauldron of creation, stretched out his hand, and two balls of white light flew out of the blood pit and landed in his hands. One is the Qiankun bag, and the other is a sacred flower that exudes majestic Tao Yun. The Emperor Luohua, Bailey Lianzheng, was the young master of Qianyong City, and he was favored by thousands of people. It goes without saying that he was rich. As for this emperor's fallen flower, just when the thoughts in Li Guanhai's mind were turning, Dong Chana hurried over, stretched out her little hand, and said matter-of-factly, "Give me the Emperor Luohua." "For you?" Li Guanhai raised his eyebrows. "Why, I snatched this emperor's falling flower from Bailey Lian, not you." Yang Chaner said anxiously, "I obviously saw this flower first, and then it was snatched away by that guy Bailey Lian. Now that you kill him, of course you have to return the flower to me. Hurry up. Are you talking about gangster logic? If you see her, she will be yours." "Then I also saw Fairy Wu Guo. Can I capture her and take her back as a maid?" Li Guanhai looked contemptuous. The speaker has no intention, the listener has intention. In the void, the gauze-faced fairy heard his words, her graceful figure swayed slightly, and her eyes were a little unnatural. "Why did it get involved with me out of nowhere? I don't care who you capture and take back as a maid, just return the emperor's fall flower to me." Yang Chaner's wealth-obsessed nature exploded, and she refused to let go of this sacred flower no matter what, not to mention that this magical flower is of great help to her cultivation. Even if she doesn't use it herself, she can still make a lot of money by selling it in an auction house. Moreover, she spent so much effort and fought with Bailey Lian for so long, but in the end she got nothing. Who can bear this? She finally understood that Li Guanhai was not here to stand up for her. This bad guy was just here for Di Luohua. Fortunately, I thought he had discovered his conscience just now, but it turned out that he had not changed. He was still as annoying and liked to bully people as before. when she thought that she had been tricked by her big enemy. Young Chana felt bitter in her heart. She wanted to rush up, push this guy to the ground, and beat him up. Li Guanhai saw that this silly girl was so aggressive and anxious, so he changed the topic and said, "It's not impossible if you want me to give you the Emperor's Fall Flower, but..." He stopped at the end, with a mysterious smile on his face. Yang Chana frowned and said dissatisfiedly, "It's nothing, please tell me quickly." She was angry in her heart. If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't defeat this guy for the time being, she wouldn't have talked so much nonsense with him, and would have taken action directly. "As long as you are willing to call me good brother, I will give you the Emperor's Fall Flower." "How about it?" Li Guanhai curled his lips and smiled, looking flawless and handsome. "What did you say?" Yang Chana's fluttering words immediately made Yang Chana furious. Her pretty face turned red with anger and she angrily shouted, "You scoundrel, stop dreaming. There is unsworn hatred between you and me. I can't wait to kill you right now." "Then do you still want this Emperor Luohua?" Li Guanhai didn't care about her harsh words. He shook the magic flower in his hand and said gradually, "Let's do this. Remove the word good and just call me brother. How about that? Don't even think about it. I will never give in." Yang Chana's mouth was very harsh, but her beautiful eyes without dust were still staring at the sacred flower, full of longing and expectation. Chapter 38, The Law of Truth, Ascending to the Xian King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, it seems you don't want it anymore, so forget it. Li Guanhai had a rather regretful expression on his face and was about to put away the Emperor's falling flower. Seeing this, Yang Chana immediately became anxious and exclaimed, "Wait a minute." In her mind, there was a battle between heaven and man, weighing the pros and cons. This Emperor's flower is so precious that it would be a pity to miss it. With it, one's own cultivation realm will definitely be able to reach a higher level and realize more of the Taoist essence of heaven and earth. In this way, there is hope for revenge, at least it will no longer be far away, but this guy is my biggest enemy. How could I call him brother? Although he is indeed my brother, it's just a title, and if you don't mean what you say, it shouldn't matter, right? When it's time to take revenge, I will pay him back 10 times the humiliation I suffered today. Thinking of this, Yang Chana clenched her fists tightly, and it took her a long time to hold back 2 words, brother, brother. This sound is quieter than a mosquito, Li Guanhai said dissatisfied. Are you taking the listening test? Louder, let me hear clearly, otherwise I won't give it to you. You. Yang Chana's lungs were about to burst with anger, but for the sake of Di Luohua, she had to endure the humiliation and spoke again, brother. It's okay now. She glared at Li Guanhai, and she was already prepared in her heart. If this guy deliberately made things difficult for her again, she would go all out and fight him. Not so bullying. Hey, my good sister, you behaved well. Come, this Emperor's Fall Flower is yours. Li Guanhai showed a satisfied smile on his face and handed over the sacred flower. Yang Chana snatched it away, glared at him, and cursed, Li Guanhai, you shameless bastard, sooner or later I will kill you. Sister, what you said makes me really sad. It's a shame that I love you so much. Li Guanhai shook his head with a disappointed expression. Yang Chana almost fainted with anger, and said coldly, you are not allowed to call me sister. Also, who is hurting you? If you really loved me, you would not have done such a thing back then. Hearing this, Li Guanhai sighed and said, what is supposed to come will always come. You practice well and I will wait for you to kill me. After saying that, he turned into a divine rainbow and rushed into the void. A ball of white light fell, and Li Guanhai's voice resounded throughout the world, take these boundary-breaking talismans. If you encounter danger, they can help you escape. Yang Chana stretched out her hand to catch the white light, which was a few talismans with circulating Taoist texts. At this moment, her heart was very confused. Let yourself practice well and wait for yourself to kill him. What does this sentence mean? Why would he give himself the boundary-breaking talisman? This thing is a life-saving trump card. It can fetch sky-high prices in the auction house. Why? Is he afraid that he will die outside? Impossible. I wish I could kill him quickly. and he must also wish I was dead, so why on earth would he do this? Could it be that there is some ulterior motive? But if he wanted to deal with himself, there was no need to go to such trouble. He could just do it now and avoid future troubles. Also, how does he know he is still alive? How do you know your whereabouts? Many questions weighed on Yang Chan'er's mind. She clenched her hands tightly and felt confused. Fairy, walk slowly. Li Guanhai rushed into the void and appeared in front of the group of people in Baikan Palace. When several Baikan Palace women saw his arrival, they all looked alert, with runes gathering in their bodies, ready to deal with any emergencies. Fairy Wugo asked softly, Young Master Guanhai, has the matter been settled? Li Guanhai nodded, didn't say much, just looked at her quietly. Fairy Wugo was also a very smart and exquisite person, so she got straight to the point. Young Master Guanhai, I, Baikan Palace, have never liked disputes, let alone get involved in worldly battles, so what happened just now, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Then I would like to thank Fairy Wugo for your kindness. If I have some free time, Guanhai will come to Baikan Palace to make some noise before I say goodbye. Li Guanhai smiled warmly, turned into a divine rainbow and left. Seeing him leaving, the women in Baikan Palace breathed a sigh of relief. Feeling relieved, the power of this young genius is so powerful that it makes people breathless. Fairy Wugo stared at the direction in which Li Guanhai left and sighed quietly. Now it seems that he really looks like the person who brought havoc to the upper world. Li Guanhai did not leave Mingshan Mountain immediately. Instead, he found a hidden cave and arranged various concealment, defense, and attack prohibition barriers. His spiritual power is now overflowing and he can break through King Xian at any time. In order not to cause a sensation in the outside world, I decided to take that step directly within the Mingshan Jumai. When the time comes to use the magical power to blind one's aura, others will not be able to see one's true cultivation level. In the cave, Li Guanhai sat cross-legged in mid-air, and divine runes emerged one after another, flying in the cave like a gorgeous golden firework. There was a black light flickering between his eyebrows, and wisps of demonic energy that was almost condensing into liquid gushed out. All runes that come into contact with the demonic energy are instantly devoured and assimilated into magic runes. There were more and more magic words, and finally formed a black tornado, roaring and roaring in the cave, as if it could swallow the world. Li Guanhai waved his sleeve and through the immortal cauldron of creation, a ball of white light spit out from the mouth of the cauldron, and the white light fell on the ground, transforming into a faint figure, which was Bailey Lien. As soon as Bailey Lien appeared, he was frightened by the magic storm in the cave and the monstrous demonic energy on Li Guanhai. You are the reincarnation of a demon. His eyes widened, and his voice began to tremble with fear. The young master of the Yunwei Division, who subdues demons and defends the way, and enforces the law in Zhuzhou, is actually the reincarnation of a demon. Oh my God, if this matter spreads, not only the upper realm, but also the entire 3,000 Dao realms will be turned upside down. You guessed it right, but not completely. Li Guanhai smiled coldly. Seeing this smile, even though Bailey Lien's body had collapsed, he still felt a chill. The future ruler of a top force in the upper realm is actually the reincarnation of a demon. This is really terrible. The reincarnation of a demon is different from practicing evil techniques and obtaining the inheritance of the demon clan. The reincarnation of a demon means that this person was a demon in his previous life, and a great demon with great cultivation. Since the final holy war, the demons have disappeared, and the reincarnation of demons has only appeared a few times in billions of years. It has been tens of millions of years since the last appearance. Bailey Lien laughed bitterly, not expecting that he would be born in the same era as the reincarnation of a demon. The upper world will never be at peace. You will be the nourishment for me to break through the Xuanhuan realm. Li Guanhai said lightly, and then his eyes suddenly turned red. What? This is a demon. Before Bailey Lien finished his horrified words, his soul exploded instantly and was sucked into Li Guanhai's pupils. The time has come, ascend to the Xuanhuan realm. Chapter 39, The Girl's Stubbornness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days later, the yin qi of Mingshan Jumai is rapidly increasing. The cultivators also noticed this situation, and they could feel that as the yin qi became more and more dense, their spiritual power seemed to be gradually devoured. If this continues, within a day, the spiritual power in the body will be completely corroded, and then assimilated by the yin qi, becoming a yin spirit, a walking corpse. Everyone did not dare to be arrogant and withdrew from Mingshan one after another. Although there are still countless rare treasures in Mingshan, waiting for them to discover, they know in their hearts that although rare treasures are good, they have to be used with life, so they chose to evacuate very simply. While everyone was rushing out, deep in the center of Mingshan Jumai, a beautiful girl in white shirt was still wandering here, searching for natural treasures with shining eyes. This girl is naturally Li Guanhai's good sister, Yang Chaner. She has not been idle for these 3 days. She has been wandering around in Mingshan, and she has collected a lot of rare and good things. This made Yang Chaner, who was poor and greedy, very happy. Her eyes curved into a crescent shape. She completely forgot the anger after being bullied by Li Guanhai. She hummed a little song in her mouth, and the moonlight like divine light enveloped her slender body, which was particularly eye-catching in the dark and silent mountains. Like a bright star, it was like an elf playing in the mountains. Yang Chaner was completely unaware that the yin energy of Mingshan Jumai was increasing. Now she was thinking about how much these rare treasures in her hands could be sold for. When she thought that she was about to make a fortune, she was very happy. Where was the cold and fairy-like temperament in the past? She was a real money grubber. Just as she squatted on the ground to pick a fairy grass emitting green light, a strong momentum suddenly broke out from behind. Yang Chaner was startled and looked back. I saw a beam of light rushing into the sky in an unknown distance, and circles of vast golden ripples spread out, dispersing the yin qi that permeated the sky. The sound of the great Tao rolled and resounded between heaven and earth. One after another, golden Tao texts fell from the sky like rain. More and more, and more dense, covering this world in a gorgeous golden rain curtain. Countless creatures corroded by yin qi were fleeing, away from the golden light column that exuded magnificent power. Whoosh! Yang Chaner waved her jade hand and killed several yin spirits that fled towards her. She looked at the sky and muttered, "Tsk, who is it? You are making such a big fuss for a breakthrough. Are you afraid that people don't know? What's so great? After I refine that Emperor Falling Flower, I can also break through to the late stage of Xuanhuan." At that time, the figure of Li Guanhai appeared in her mind, with a clenched jade fist and a fierce momentum. The next moment, the golden light column that penetrated the sky and earth dissipated, and the Taoist texts that fell like raindrops also disappeared, and the sky and the earth returned to a dark tone. On the other side, Li Guanhai slowly opened his eyes, and a red light suddenly appeared, and he saw through the nothingness. He exhaled a breath of turbid air and looked up at the top of the cave, where a large round hole appeared. Looking up from here, you can see the sky filled with thick yin energy. Seeing this, Li Guanhai couldn't help but smile bitterly. I wanted to set up many forbidden arrays, which should be able to isolate the movement in the cave, but the power that erupted at the last moment of the breakthrough was too powerful. Let alone a few forbidden arrays, even the protective array of a Taoist sect may not be able to stop it. If I had known this would happen, I should have used the immortal cauldron of creation to cover this mountain range at that time, which would definitely be foolproof, but it doesn't matter. Although there is a lot of noise here, who knows that I am breaking through? And even if they knew, what would happen? At most, the upper world would be shocked by it, that's all. Li Guanhai smiled lightly. He felt that there was an endless amount of divine power gushing out of his body, and the richness of his spiritual power was more than several times stronger than before. This is the Xuanhuan realm. A wave of his hand can cause mountains to collapse and the earth to split, and the sun and the moon to lose their color. Then, he opened his personal information panel and took the opportunity to describe his own situation and what he had obtained. Host, Li Guanhai. Identity, young master of the Cloud Guard Division, Cultivation Realm, early Xuanhuan. Constitution, Eye of the Demon Lord, unknown. Talent, Taichu, 10,000 demon thoughts, martial god residual Jew, ancient god Dharma body, golden finger, 10,000 ancient slips, green emperor's legacy, innate luck, born a demon fetus, acquired luck, elegant, admired by 10,000 people, blessed by ancient gods, remaining lifespan, 473 days, kung fu. And supernatural powers, Hell's Soul Exchange Sutra, Qitian Gang, Qitianshan slanderous thoughts, Hun Tian Bao Jian, Fu Yang Long Shi, Tian Dao Jian Gang, Taiyin Sword Ju, Tsujing Jiue, Ji Lei Shinzong, Shaking Heaven and Dragon Palm, Refining God and Returning to the Void Technique, Bound Tianjiao, Gu Shichao, Item Pack, Creation Immortal Cauldron, World Seed *3, Beating God Whip. After reading this, Li Guanhai showed a satisfied smile on his face. It's time to leave. He touched the ground with his toes and flew directly out of the round hole above his head, floating in the void. The yin energy between heaven and earth was gathering rapidly, and the spiritual power in the body was being devoured. He had to leave here as soon as possible. Li Guanhai's figure flashed, and he turned into a divine rainbow, flying towards the exit of the Mingshan Jueming. The speed of yin qi corrosion is too fast. While Li Guanhai is rushing on the road, he is fighting against the dense yin qi to slow down the progress of corrosion. According to the current situation, it will not take a while for the entire Mingshan absolute vein to be closed again. Once trapped in it, it is difficult to escape even if the space is torn. Li Guanhai's speed is very fast, like a meteor across the sky, brilliant and dazzling. At the same time, at the entrance of Mingshan absolute vein, there are still countless cultivators gathered here, most of whom came out of Mingshan. They are basically happy. Obviously this trip to Mingshan has been fruitful. The strong men of the major sects of the gods and immortals who are waiting here can't help but breathe a sigh of relief when they see their own Tianjiao return safely. Fortunately, nothing happened. If they have something wrong in there, they will definitely be in trouble when they go back. Of course, there are also many strong men who are ashen and dizzy after hearing that their Tianjiao has fallen in Mingshan. The Mingshan absolute veins are dangerous and unpredictable, filled with various ancient prohibitions and murderous formations, and there are many yin spirits whose intelligence is corroded by yin qi, which is extremely dangerous. Hundreds of thousands of people entered the Mingshan this time, and only half of them came out alive. Those who can survive are already blessed by God, and the survivors have a question in their hearts. According to the records in ancient books and documents, the yin spirits in the Mingshan absolute veins are extremely terrifying, numerous, and extremely powerful, but this time, the yin spirits encountered were not only few, but also pitifully weak, and a slap could kill a group of them. What's going on? Is there something wrong with the ancient books and documents? On the god ship, Li Ningxuang and a group of Qingqi guards and followers showed worry in their eyes, and stared closely at the entrance of the Mingshan where the yin qi was getting thicker and thicker. Seeing the sons of the geniuses of the major divine sects coming out one after another, but not seeing Li Guanhai for a long time, they couldn't help but feel anxious and worried. On the other side of the divine ship, in front of the Xiahou immortal dynasty's strong men, Xiahou Aoshue stood in the wind, with a pair of charming and slender eyes also staring at the entrance of the dark mountain. On the surface, she was indifferent, but deep in her eyes, she was full of anxiety and tension. Why hasn't he come out yet? When she was about to use the Pisces pendant to enter the dark mountain to find Li Guanhai, a white light rushed out from the dense yin qi. The white shirt was in the wind, and the fairy-like posture was elegant. It was Li Guanhai. Seeing that he was safe and sound, Li Ningxuang and Xiahou Aoshue, as well as a group of Qingqi guards and followers, all breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, God bless. Li Guanhai was about to fly onto the divine ship, but suddenly he felt something and looked back. In the dark mountain, in the yin qi that was so dense that it was almost condensed into liquid, there was a slender figure in white clothes staggering and moving forward with difficulty. Li Guanhai recognized her at a glance. It was his silly sister, Yang Chaner. At this moment, the divine light around her was being corroded by the yin qi at a speed visible to the naked eye. At her speed, she would be completely devoured before she walked out of the exit. Yang Chaner seemed to have sensed something, and when she looked up, she happened to meet Li Guanhai's eyes. The brother and sister looked at each other from a distance. The stubbornness in the girl's eyes was deeply imprinted in Li Guanhai's heart. Chapter 40, A Hero Saves His Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The monks felt a little sorry when they saw this scene. Alas, such a beautiful and wonderful little girl, she was about to be corroded by the yin qi and turned into a walking corpse. They knew how powerful this yin qi was. A little bit of it was like a maggot attached to the bone, and it would take a lot of effort to force it out of the body. The girl came out too late and was trapped in the yin qi. The passport condensed by the mana could not hold on for long. Once the mana shield was eroded, the yin qi would instantly penetrate into her pores. Although separated by the thick yin qi, the monks could still see the girl's beautiful face and her elegant and extraordinary temperament. What a pity, although young Xuan'er, who was trapped in the yin qi, had a stubborn look in her eyes and refused to show her weakness in front of Li Guanhai, her great enemy. She was laughing miserably in her heart, feeling helpless and regretful. If I had known earlier, I would not have coveted those natural treasures. Am I going to die here today? But I just came down the mountain, just found him, and haven't had time to take revenge yet. Can I not die? I still have a lot of things to do. Young Xuan'er talked to herself in her heart, but she knew very well that she might not be able to pass this level today. Suddenly, a very strange, terrible, and incredible thought came to her mind. Will he come to save her like before? As soon as this thought came to her mind, she laughed at herself. Oh, how is it possible? He would like me to die earlier, right? In this way, no one will seek revenge on him. At this moment, a loud shout from a Qingqi guard came from the god ship. Young master, the yin qi is overflowing, retreat quickly. At the same time, the mighty army of monks retreated like a tide, to stay away from this place. Li Guanhai sighed, turned into a stream of light and flew onto the god ship. Young Xuan'er stared at his departing back, biting her lower lip, feeling inexplicably aggrieved in her heart. She resisted the urge to cry, stubbornly kept silent, and did not let herself show any weakness. The yin energy around her became thicker and thicker, and young Xuan'er's spiritual power was almost drained. Just when she was desperate and was about to end her life, her eyes suddenly widened and she froze in place. On the divine ship in the sky, a stream of light pierced through the void, without stopping, and resolutely rushed into the extremely thick yin energy. Young Xuan'er looked at the white-clothed figure wrapped in a ball of white light, which quickly rushed towards her. She seemed to be stupid and muttered to herself. He's here, how could it be? The yin energy was pushed away, and Li Guanhai came to her in an instant, looking at the pair of indifferent and cold eyes. Young Xuan'er's little head was dizzy, and she couldn't believe what she saw. At this moment, a mess of emotions mixed together, making her heart very confused. Li Guanhai looked her up and down, as if to see if she was contaminated by the yin qi, and then without saying much, he picked her up and flew out. In a few blinks of an eye, the two rushed out. Li Guanhai put young Xuan'er down. Young Xuan'er pursed her red lips, and suddenly felt her hands wet and warm. She looked down and was stunned. Her hands were covered with blood at some point, but she was not injured. Suddenly she realized something, turned her head and looked, and her heart was immediately tightened. I saw that Li Guanhai's wide sleeves that naturally fell to his side were now completely soaked and stained red with blood. Under the sleeves, the bloody, white bone hand was shocking. Li Guanhai, you. Young Xuan'er's heart was extremely complicated, and she wanted to say something, but before she said half of the words, Li Guanhai turned into a divine rainbow and flew onto the divine ship waiting in the void. A few drops of Yin Hong's blood fell on the ground and grew into a green field of exotic flowers and plants. Young Xuan'er's heart tightened, as if she was grabbed by an invisible big hand. Her head was buzzing, and she was a little lost, and her beautiful face was full of confusion. She never thought that Li Guanhai would come to save her, and he took a great risk and paid a great price. She always wanted to kill him, but he saved her twice in a row. Why? His hand was completely corroded by the yin qi. Is it a big deal? Young Xuan'er forced herself to calm down, but she couldn't do it at all. Finally, she gritted her teeth and turned into a divine rainbow to chase after him, wanting to find out the truth. On the divine ship, a group of followers saw Li Guanhai returning injured, and their hearts were in their throats. Master, are you okay? Hurry, I have a magic medicine here to relieve the injury. Li Ningxuang immediately supported Li Guanhai, her face full of worry. Xiahou Aoxue also rushed over with a group of people. Seeing Li Ningxuang and Li Guanhai so close, she couldn't help but frown and felt a little uncomfortable. But now is not the time to care about these things. The cold and majestic face on her picturesque face disappeared, replaced by full of concern. Are you okay? Li Guanhai shook his head. The yin qi invaded my body, and the healing medicine is useless. I'm going to retreat. After that, he let Li Ningxuang support him and walked towards the most magnificent palace on the divine ship. Xiahou Aoxue's expression was complicated, and she was a little jealous. He used to be so cold-blooded and ruthless. Why would he hurt himself like this to save a girl today? Could it be that he has taken a fancy to that girl? Thinking of this, Xiahou Aoshue felt annoyed. Li Guanhai, wait a minute. At this moment, Yang Chaner flew onto the divine ship and was shouting before landing. How could she still look like a fairy? She wanted to find Li Guanhai to ask him why he did that back then and why he saved her now. Li Guanhai naturally heard it, but he ignored it and walked straight to the palace, staggering. It seemed that if Li Ningxuang hadn't supported him, he would probably fall directly. Seeing that he ignored her, Yang Chaner felt wronged and angry, and was about to chase him. Miss, stop. Several Qingxi guards with terrifying auras stood up and blocked her. A Qingxi guard with a terrifying scar on the corner of his eye and a full beard said in a cold voice, "The young master is injured and needs to rest in seclusion. Miss, please leave. Don't stop me, I want to see how his injury is." Yang Chaner looked quite anxious. "Girl. I'm warning you for the last time, please leave." The bearded Qingxi guard shouted in a low voice, and the aura of the Xuanhuan realm burst out. The heaven and earth trembled, the void burst into ripples, and the dark clouds pressing on the sky rolled up with it, which was extremely terrifying. If it weren't for the fact that the relationship between this girl and his young master seemed a little unusual, he would not bother to say so much nonsense, and would have slapped her to death long ago. However, Yang Chaner was not afraid at all, and still stared at her fiercely, like a kitten with its fur standing on end. Just when the situation was tense, Li Guanhai, who had already walked to the door of the palace, suddenly said, "Don't embarrass her." After saying that, he stepped into the palace without waiting for any response.